Breaking news: what you're about to witness will absolutely destroy everything you thought you knew about Anthony Albanese's leadership. Chandler-Mather just dropped the most devastating political bombshell on live television that has Labour Party insiders frantically doing damage control and Albanese's office in complete meltdown mode. This isn't just another political spat, this is a calculated political assassination that's left the Prime Minister's credibility in tatters, and the mainstream media is desperately trying to cover it up. Picture this: you're Anthony Albanese, you're supposed to be the leader of this nation, and you've just been absolutely humiliated on national television by a politician half your age who's made it his personal mission to expose every single lie, every broken promise, and every betrayal you've committed against the Australian people. The political establishment is in panic mode because what Chandler-Mather revealed isn't just embarrassing, it's potentially career-ending for Labour's top brass. Here's what really happened behind the scenes that has Parliament House buzzing like a kicked hornet's nest. Chandler-Mather didn't just criticize Albanese's housing policies on live TV, he systematically demolished the Prime Minister's entire credibility with surgical precision that left political commentators speechless and Labour MPs frantically checking their phones for damage control instructions from the party machine. The Greens housing spokesperson has been playing political chess while Albanese's been playing checkers, and what unfolded on television was months of preparation culminating in the most devastating political takedown since Kevin Rudd's Midnight Challenge. Chandler-Mather came armed with facts, figures, and receipts that painted Albanese not just as incompetent, but as fundamentally dishonest about Labour's commitment to solving Australia's housing crisis. But here's the kicker that has Labour strategists working overtime to spin this disaster. Chandler-Mather didn't just attack Albanese's policies, he exposed the entire rotten system that keeps politicians like Albo in power while ordinary Australians can't afford to buy homes. The young Greens MP laid bare how Labour takes massive donations from property developers while pretending to care about housing affordability, and the visual of Albanese's face during this revelation was worth 1,000 political attack ads. What makes this political execution even more brutal is that Chandler-Mather timed it perfectly. While Albanese was trying to announce yet another toothless housing initiative designed to generate headlines without solving problems, Max was ready with devastating counter-evidence that exposed the announcement as nothing more than political theatre designed to fool voters who are struggling to keep roofs over their heads. The live television moment that has everyone talking happened when Chandler-Mather looked directly into the camera and essentially called Albanese a fraud. Not in those exact words, but the message was crystal clear: here's a Prime Minister who campaigns on helping working families while his party accepts millions from the very property developers who are pricing those families out of the housing market. The hypocrisy was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Here's what the mainstream media doesn't want you to know about this political bombshell: it wasn't spontaneous. Chandler-Mather has been methodically building this case against Albanese for months, gathering evidence, documenting contradictions, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When that moment came on live television, he didn't just wound Albanese politically, he delivered a mortal blow to Labour's credibility on the issue that matters most to struggling Australian families. The immediate aftermath was absolutely chaotic. Labour MPs started frantically texting damage control talking points, Albanese's media team went into overdrive trying to spin the disaster, and political journalists who usually protect Labour politicians suddenly found themselves with a story too big to ignore or bury. The Prime Minister's office was reportedly in complete crisis mode, with senior advisors scrambling to figure out how to respond to accusations that weren't just politically damaging but factually devastating. But the real genius of Chandler-Mather's attack wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. While Albanese relies on scripted responses and political double talk, Max spoke directly to viewers like a real human being discussing real problems affecting real families. The contrast couldn't have been more stark: on one side, a career politician spinning elaborate justifications for failure, and on the other, a young representative speaking truth to power without fear or compromise. What has Labour insiders absolutely terrified is that this wasn't an isolated incident, it's part of a systematic campaign by Chandler-Mather to expose how fundamentally corrupted Australian politics has become. While other politicians play nice and follow unwritten rules about not embarrassing colleagues, Max has declared war on the entire system that allows politicians to get rich while their constituents get poorer. The specific bombshell that has everyone talking involves Labour's relationship with property development lobby groups. Chandler-Mather revealed on live television that while Albanese publicly supports housing affordability measures, his party has received hundreds of thousands of dollars from organizations that profit from keeping housing prices artificially high. The cognitive dissonance was so obvious that even friendly journalists couldn't help but ask uncomfortable follow-up questions. Here's where it gets even more devastating for Albanese. Chandler-Mather didn't just present allegations, he brought receipts, documents, donation records, voting patterns, and a timeline that showed exactly how Labour's housing policies shifted in favour of developers immediately after receiving significant campaign contributions. It was like watching someone present evidence in a criminal trial, except the defendant was the Prime Minister of Australia. The political establishment's response to this bombshell reveals everything you need to know about how threatened they feel by Chandler-Mather's truth-telling approach. Instead of addressing the substantive allegations about corruption and policy betrayals, they attacked his youth, his inexperience, and his radical ideas about politicians actually representing their constituents instead of corporate donors. What makes Chandler-Mather so dangerous to career politicians like Albanese is that he represents everything the political establishment fears most: authenticity, preparation, and an absolute refusal to play by corrupt rules that benefit politicians at the expense of ordinary Australians. While Albanese carefully manages his image through focus groups and media advisors, Max simply tells the truth and lets the chips fall where they may. The live television moment that crystallized this political rivalry happened when Albanese tried to defend Labour's housing record by citing statistics that sounded impressive until Chandler-Mather immediately fact-checked them in real time. Watching the Prime Minister's face as his carefully crafted talking points were systematically debunked was like watching someone realize their poker bluff had been called by someone holding a royal flush. But the most damaging aspect of Chandler-Mather's television performance wasn't just the facts he presented, it was the moral clarity he brought to issues that career politicians have deliberately obscured with jargon and complexity. While Albanese speaks in political code designed to say nothing while sounding important, Max speaks in plain English about simple moral questions. Should politicians take money from industries that profit from human suffering? The internal Labour Party reaction to this television disaster has been absolutely fascinating to observe from the outside. Senior MPs who usually present a united front have been caught making off-the-record comments expressing frustration with Albanese's handling of the Chandler-Mather problem. Some are reportedly questioning whether the Prime Minister's traditional approach of managing problems through media spin is adequate for dealing with an opponent who simply won't be managed or intimidated. Here's what has Labour strategists losing sleep: polling data that shows Chandler-Mather's direct, confrontational style is resonating with voters who are sick of political games and double talk. While Albanese approval ratings slide with each housing crisis headline, Max's profile continues rising among Australians who appreciate politicians willing to call out corruption and hypocrisy regardless of party loyalties. The specific moment that has become a social media sensation involves Chandler-Mather's response when Albanese tried to dismiss his criticism as youthful idealism. Max looked directly at the camera and said something that has been shared thousands of times: if caring more about families than property developers is youthful idealism, then we need more youth in politics and less cynical careerism. The burn was so severe that even Albanese media allies couldn't spin it as anything other than a devastating comeback. What makes this political rivalry so compelling is that it represents a generational and philosophical divide that extends far beyond housing policy. Chandler-Mather represents a new type of politician who views compromise with corporate interests as betrayal of public trust, while Albanese represents an older generation that sees such compromises as pragmatic governance. The clash between these worldviews has produced some of the most compelling political television in recent Australian history. The long-term implications of this television bombshell extend far beyond embarrassing Anthony Albanese. Chandler-Mather has essentially declared war on the entire system of legalized corruption that allows politicians to serve corporate interests while claiming to represent ordinary Australians. By naming names, citing specific examples, and connecting policy outcomes to campaign contributions, he's created a template for political accountability that has establishment politicians genuinely terrified. The most brutal aspect of Chandler-Mather's television performance was how he turned Albanese's experience against him. While the Prime Minister tried to play the elder statesman card, Max pointed out that decades of political experience had only taught Albanese how to better serve corporate donors while perfecting the art of disappointing voters with elegant excuses. It was political aikido, using the opponent's strength against them with devastating effectiveness. Here's what the political establishment really fears about Max Chandler-Mather is proving that voters are hungry for politicians who prioritize principles over party loyalty, truth over talking points, and constituent interests over corporate donations. Every time he embarrasses a career politician like Albanese on national television, he demonstrates that a different kind of politics is possible, and that possibility terrifies everyone whose careers depend on maintaining the corrupt status quo. The television moment that crystallized everything happened when Albanese, clearly frustrated by being fact-checked in real time, accused Chandler-Mather of grandstanding for the cameras. Max's response was perfect: "I'm not grandstanding, I'm representing." Maybe if you spent less time managing your image and more time serving your constituents, you'd understand the difference. The studio audience audibly gasped, and political Twitter exploded with clips that are still generating millions of views. This political bombshell represents more than just another parliamentary dust-up. It's a preview of how Australian politics might look when a new generation of representatives who aren't beholden to corporate interests start holding career politicians accountable for their betrayals and broken promises. Max Chandler-Mather isn't just challenging Anthony Albanese, he's challenging the entire rotten system that Albanese represents, and based on public reaction to this television performance, voters are ready for that challenge to succeed. If you thought tonight's story was wild, trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So don't stop now. Click on the video right here on your screen to continue the chaos, the drama, and the inside scoop only we deliver. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join the Australian News CC family where the real stories come to life. See you in the next one.